Board meeting to order for Monday, December 18th. Please join me for pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, for 601, we have Board of Assessors talk about the tax rate, and we have Mr. Bill Porter representing them.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm Bill Porter. I've been on the Board of Assessors for about 20 years, and I've lived on Cedar Drive since the 1970s. I think you have a packet that came from us, and this is obviously an annual thing that has to take place to decide whether to have a single or split tax rate. We highly recommend a single tax rate. Let me just give you a little bit of information about the values. If you could go to this page here, I think it's like maybe your second page in. The very top box shows you what last year and this year was like in terms of values. And home values went up approximately, and this is all based on sales, you know, home values went up approximately 15% this year. And so the assessed value of homes when you get your new tax bill is going to be about 15% higher than it was. And that goes across the board. It doesn't matter what style home it is, whether it's a ranch house, a raised ranch, a colonial, it's going to be across the board. There was obviously some new growth and a little bit of a commercial and industrial increase, and the personal property value went up a little bit more than normal, and that had to do with a court case with the utility companies that the court finally decided in favor of towns, and so that benefited Granby about $15 million that we did not have a value before. But that's why that's gone up so much from 32 to 48. Okay. It's not like people went out and bought tons of extra things. The next box down shows you what the average value and the median value was for 2003, and then what it is for 2004. And so it's not on your sheet, but I have it on my sheet, so I'm going to read you some information. With the tax rate last year for a median value home of 304, the median value tax bill was 5206. This year, the median value has gone up to 352,750, and with a lower tax rate, the tax bill is going to be 5406. That's a $200 increase. So the median value of the homes in town, there's going to be $200 increase. Now, for the average value, and the reason the average value is higher is we have a lot of more homes above the median than below the median, and so the average is higher. And this year the bill is going to go from $5,814 to $6,052, or $238. Again, that's the average tax bill. If you look down at the bottom of this page, the box that's down at the bottom of the page, you'll see where the tax rate went down last year approximately a little over 10%. If 1533 is approved, this year it's going to go down 10.4. So it's very similar to last year. And last year the values went up approximately 12 to 14%. This year they're going up approximately 15%. So it's very similar to last year. Values are going up, tax rates going down, and overall taxes go up just a little bit. I'm willing to answer any questions you have about this. If not, we'll go on to another page, but I don't want to pass this by too quickly if you have any questions about it.
No, I think what everybody always has, the question is, how does the tax rate go down but our taxes go up?
Because the value was going up.
Yeah. But I think that's the important piece that people remember. That
and that's just
control the value. The market controls the value.
That's just being realistic. Yeah. You know, the average home in Granby, the value is going up $50,000. But that's some will be below that, some will be above that. But the average is going to be $50,000.
Can you Mr. Porter, can you explain a little bit more on the excess levy?
I'm sorry, I'm having a little difficulty hearing you.
Yep, I'm sorry. Can you explain a little bit more on the excess levy?
I got to defer to Chris on that,
Okay.
on the levy portion.
Excess levy is based upon a formula. Every year we're allowed to raise a maximum amount in real estate taxes, okay? Based upon the numbers that came in and what was voted at annual town meeting and the various funding sources, we didn't have to raise the full amount that we were allowed to. We raised everything except $9,212.
Okay.
Thank you for asking the question. I'm glad Chris could answer it. The next page I want to look at is this page, which you have. This is the page that, it's kind of a what-if scenario. What if the tax rate is not the same between residential and commercial? And in a town like Granby, it almost makes very little impact upon the residential if you raise the taxes on commercial. I am not aware of any town in Hampshire County that does not have a single tax rate. I did this research last Friday. I'm not aware of a single town. There are six cities or towns around here that do have split tax rates, but they're all in Hamden County, and they're all cities. Agawam, Chicopee, Holyoke, Springfield, West Springfield, and Westfield. They all have split tax rates. But towns like Amherst, Northampton, Hadley, East Hampton, they all have single tax rates. And that's why we're recommending a single tax rate, because we have so little commercial business anyway. Back on that first page, there's a chart here that shows we have 9.3% of commercial and personal property, which is very small. So if you reduce the tax rate on the single-family homes, it really drives the tax rate up on the commercial property. And this chart, I can illustrate that for you. Now I have mine color-coded, which is easier. I'm sorry, yours isn't. But if you come down on the left-hand side and come down where it says 1.05, where it says CIP shift, on the very left-hand side.
Yep.
And then bring that over 6 lines down on the estimated tax rate. You'll see that the tax rate would change from 1533 to 1528. It would change 8 cents per thousand. If you change the tax rate or swapped it off at 5%. If you go down to 10%, it's 16%, 15% is 24 cents, which is very small dollar amounts. But that's what that chart is showing you. And then converting that, let me give you an example. If it got changed 10%, which is 16 cents per thousand, and for the medium value home of 304, that's a $49 change in the taxes, which is less than 1%. It's very small. That's why towns don't do it, because they're trying to attract commercial property. And so, I mean, that's kind of what I have to say to you, but I'm willing to answer any questions you might have. I do wear hearing aids, so if you could speak up, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. That's my issue, my problem.
And I do know that comes up every year in regards to the tax rate, residential and commercial. And I've heard the same explanation many times, and I think it still holds true, without a doubt. Any questions? No. Crystal?
No, no questions.
Bill, do you have anything else for us besides that before we vote on it?
Okay. And everything else?
Do you have anything else for us?
I really don't. I've given you all of it that I think is basic. If you ask questions, I might be able to answer them in terms of various things, but I think I've given you the basic information as to why we recommend a single tax rate.
So the other chart, Bill, was just to continue the percentage? It's to show you if you drive up the commercial percentage?
If you look at that, because you actually have the state law allows us to change the tax rate up to 150%.
Okay.
And so that's why every one of those goes down that 10%. There's a couple pages afterwards, and it keeps on going.
Yeah.
But most towns don't, particularly small towns. There are 3 towns in Franklin counties, 3 small towns in Franklin County, all located on Route 2, that have a split tax rate. But they're the only ones of small towns in western Massachusetts that do. But there's none in Hampshire County. And there's no towns in Hampden County that do either, but those 6 cities that I mentioned all do. But it's because they have such a large percentage of commercial property.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes a difference.
Yeah. I'd be afraid if we lower the residential, because it's 90% of our income, so to speak, or money that we raise, that's going to hurt a lot more than increasing the businesses, because it's only 9%.
Exactly. I mean, even changing it 10%, that's why I gave you the illustration I did.
Yeah.
Changing it 10%, it's $49
Yeah,
for the average home, which is less than 1% of the tax bill.
right.
And what the residential would gain is nothing compared to what
It's
the
very
commercial has to pay.
Right.
It's just
And what it's really doing is sending a message, don't come to Granby if you want to develop a business along 202.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to accept a single tax rate of $15.33 per thousand for fiscal year 2024?
Yep. I will make a motion to accept the $15.33 per thousand for fiscal year 2024 as recommended by the Board of Assessors.
I will second that motion.
Any further discussion this time? No? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Tax rate is set for 2024.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Chris, was there anything that we had to sign for that?
Go.
Thank you.
All right, Chris, you have a couple minutes before our next appointment at 6:15, everything?
Yep. Just reminding the board that the senior luncheon is Thursday, 9 a.m. That would be appreciated. The other item is at our last meeting, we had been mentioned about contacting the building commissioners to see if they identify ADA issues. I did speak with our interim building commissioner, and he says building commissioners do not do that. They now then become designers, and if they end up missing something, they become liable for anything they miss. So, no, that would not be a viable option for us to try and identify any and all ADA issues at the high school.
Did they point you to who is responsible for it, or would it be an
Just
outside
contact
company?
an architectural firm, contact an engineering firm, and see if someone's willing to come in and go through the building and look.
Okay.
Can we do something like that and find out what the cost is associated with it?
Me? If you direct me to, I will.
Yeah, I think if we could just find out what before, just have a cost associated with it, then we could talk to the school committee about it.
Okay?
Just curious,
No,
we were looking at
it's
the other
just-
part, if we're gonna go down that road, might as well keep on going down.
All right.
If it's not, obviously if it's too costly, then it might not be worth it, but something to entertain, I guess, at this point. Unless anybody feels different.
No, just a question. So it came up at the town meeting that if we hit the 30% threshold, right, that we would have to update to ADA compliance, and the building commissioner would have to go in and determine what is not or what isn't?
No, he would just shut down the project.
Okay.
Because once you hit the 30%, he cannot issue a building permit for anything above the 30%.
Okay.
He wouldn't go in and identify.
Okay.
He would just shut the project down. That's all he would do.
Okay. Until it's been determined what needs to be updated?
So we'd have to bring someone in and do all that work to find out what it would cost anyways.
Yes.
All right, well, it's now 6:15. It brings us to our next appointment. Carl Nielsen for dredging at Dufresne Park. Sir, do you what, please?
Flash drive.
All right. Chris and I'll be over there. How's everything good?
Yeah.
Good.
It's gonna be hard to follow tax talk, but do my best.
A little more lively, I hope.
Pull it up.
Felt like a spring day today.
It did, 62 at my house. Crazy.
Actually feel.
So should I be up here when I'm speaking, or where do you prefer? I've got to advance the slides, so
Can you hear him okay?
I can speak. Oh. Thank you. Oh,
It's more for the camera, for the people at home.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Still have to speak loud enough for everyone in the room to hear.
That should carry throughout the room too.
Okay, great. So,
It's not on?
It doesn't carry throughout the room, is what she's saying.
I'll speak loudly. If you can't hear me, just let me know.
What's their piece of equipment? I don't know.
My name's, should I, I'll hold off.
Go ahead, sir.
You ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay, so my name's Carl Nielsen. I'm a certified lake manager. I work for a company called TRC. We were hired by the town to evaluate Dufresne Pond as a potential candidate for dredging. We were hired about a year ago. Let's see if we can, oh no. I don't want that. Let's see. Where's the page down button? There it is. Basically, the reason we were hired is the pond is shallow, weedy, and excessively mucky. Can you see okay? So when I say shallow, it's 1 to 3 feet deep on average, with about 3 to 10 feet of muck below that. So it's filled in quite a bit over time. The watershed of the pond.
If I just interrupt you for a second, does the camera, can it pick up the screen so people know what he's talking about? Please?
There you go.
Thank you.
Can you see it okay? Sort of? So the pond is right here on this figure. It's about a 6-acre pond in a 155-acre watershed. The nice thing is the pond doesn't have any invasive or exotic plant species, which is a good thing. Part of that's because there's no public boat launch or no upstream lakes that could introduce those invasive species. The pond is located entirely within a recreational area, surrounded by fields and forest areas with walking paths, etc. You guys are more familiar with it than I. But there's also wetlands up in the watershed. And then the whole area is used for recreation primarily, not a lot of boating and swimming. When we did our assessments, this is the bathymetric map or water depth map that we created. You can see up by the dam, there's about 6 feet of water depth as a maximum, but most of the water is 1 to 2 or 3 feet deep. And then there's a large area in this sort of southwestern portion that's less than a foot deep and very weedy. When you look at the sediment depths, overall, it's about 4 feet of sediment within the pond, but there's pockets of 8 to 10 feet down in this bottom corner. But generally, right in through here, it's 4 to 6 feet deep of sediment. Did I skip 2? There we go. When you calculate that out, it comes out to 41,000 cubic yards of mud. That's important because that's sort of the target dredge volume if you were to take out all the soft sediment or organic muck that's in there to get it down to sand or gravel, which would be beneath that. It would triple the water volume of the pond, make the water depth about 12 feet deep in the middle. This is a map showing where we cored. All these little yellow dots are where we probed the depth, so we have some very good accurate readings. We took 1, 2, 3 cores that were made up of actually 3 sediment cores mixed together at each location, so it's designed to be representative of the muck. And the reason we had to take those cores is to test it, send it off to a laboratory to find out how contaminated that material is. Ponds tend to collect all the nutrients as well as chemicals from the watershed. This watershed, as we had mentioned, is very undeveloped, mostly woods and wetlands, so we wouldn't expect a lot of contaminants in the pond. This is what a core looks like. This is just 2 feet of the core. As you can see, there's a lot of, well, you probably can't see from back there, but there's a lot of organic material, roots of plants and things like that, or plants that haven't fully decayed, and it's very soft. It's about 80, well, we'll get into it, but it's very organic and very fine, silty material, not a lot of sand. The sediment was found to be relatively clean when we did our testing. That's good because that means you can bring that material and pretty much put it anywhere you wish. As far as disposal or reuse of that material, there won't be a lot of restrictions on it. We did find chromium and nickel to be elevated, not exceedingly high, but just slightly above the standards in 1 or 2 of the samples. So when you actually look at the overall chemical concentration of the sediment and you were to mix it, that mixed value is really what they will look at when you go to permit the removal. And the state will dictate that process as we go through the permitting. They'll tell you how many samples you need to test, how much more testing needs to be done for nickel and chromium. And these, when I say chromium, you probably won't be able to see, the standard is 11 for beneficial reuse. Just to be able to put it, anything below 11 is good. Chromium was 14 to 18, which is elevated, but chromium tends to be high everywhere in Massachusetts. The standard for putting it in a landfill is 100. So you have you could bring it to a lined landfill and it would be great for daily cover, for instance. Nickel, even better story. Really just one sample exceeded the criteria. We were at 8.5. The criteria is 7.2, and the rest of the samples were below. So not a difficult thing to overcome. The other thing that the state will have us look at if we move forward is the chromium it can be elemental or sort of metal. which isn't very reactive or toxic to anything, or it can be hexavalent chromium, which is a form that's bioavailable and toxic. Generally speaking, when we do these studies, it's always trivalent, which is pretty much non-toxic material. They'll have us test that out to see what fraction, how much is trivalent versus how much is hexavalent, and it'll be 90% or more trivalent if I were to wager. So won't be an issue for disposal in the upland area. Here's just a grain size analysis. We had 84 to 93% silts and clays, 0 gravel, and the remainder being sand. So very little sand. It's very mucky. When we look at a pond for dredging, you have to look at the resource areas that you may impact. You need to know what potential areas you might dispose of the material. You can't put piles of mud into a wetland. We looked at these hatched areas are areas where you potentially could stockpile or store or permanently place the material just very locally. And those are all outside of wetland areas. Anything that's in this shaded area would be wetland buffer or wetland resources that you'd need to, you'll definitely impact because you're going to get equipment in or out through that material or through those resource areas, but for the most part, that's part of the permitting process. There are no rare, threatened, or endangered species listed for the area, which is good. It's not an impediment to dredging. You wouldn't be disrupting any special habitats. So then we had to look at, well, what are we going to do? How much of this material are we going to really need to take? As I said before, 41,000 cubic yards is the entire volume of material. We proposed in our report a concept of about 31,600 cubic yards, which is this blue hatched area, and left sort of the south and southeastern end of the pond untouched. It's mostly wetland down there, a lot of lilies and lily pads, and we made the decision that it'd be easier to leave that material there, let it be natural. It continues to provide wetland filtering from the watershed drainage that comes in. So it's going to allow material that's coming through the drainage to settle out within the basin at the headwaters. Whereas if you dredge it, it's going to fill in pretty quick anyway. And then by cutting down your volume about 25%, you cut down your cost by about 25%. So that's another factor there. Still gets all the benefit of taking out the material in the areas that you'd really envision keeping open or deep. The pond being 1 to 3 feet deep, if you were to dredge this, would be 8 to 12 feet within that area. So a nice deeper, and the reason we shoot for that 8 to 12 is light limitation for plant growth. If you, generally speaking, if you're more than 8 or 10 feet in a pond with this water clarity, you won't have any plants growing on the bottom, which is good. You'll still have a shoreline with plant growth or the potential for plant growth. We're not dredging right up to the edge of the pond. Part of that's for safety, because someone were to step off the side, if it drops to 6 feet, no one's going to be real happy. But the other factor is there's herps or turtles and frogs and salamanders that will overwinter in that mud or along the shoreline, and you just leaving that in place is something that the regulators will look favorably upon. That doesn't mean that if you had a specific area that you said, I want to clean this area out for access, or I wanted to put some sand in this area to allow people to launch a kayak or a canoe at that spot, you could. We just have to put that into the design. And so this work really, by focusing on the center, achieves the desired depth goals, the light limitation for plant growth, and leaves the immediate shoreline and adjacent wetland areas untouched, which will be a plus for permitting. So how do we do this? Hydraulic dredging is one way to do it. This is a hydraulic dredge here. It's got a big cutter head on the end of a pump. The pump basically sucks that material out and puts it somewhere. You have to plan for that. So it's either got to be a large containment area, which is created by a berm with equipment, sort of a bowl, and you fill it with this wet mud slurry that's 80% liquid and 20% mud. And
You don't make it sound good.
it's not. Well, it's great for a big project because you don't have the ability to drain down a big lake, for instance. The challenge is always how to de-water that mud to make it soil so that you can stack it or move it or truck it somewhere for where it's ultimately going to go. It does minimize the impacts to the pond because you're not draining the pond and the ecology of the pond, and it allows you to continue to use the pond while the dredge is operating, although given the size of the pond, I would think you're probably going to end up shutting down the pond when the dredge is operational. And again, that sediment is much more expensive to de-water. And we have another option, which is dry dredging, which is using a conventional equipment like an excavator and a backhoe and a dump truck. The pond is drained, water inflows are managed throughout the dredging process to pass the water that's coming in from the inlet to the outlet while the rest of the pond is drained. Obviously, it's disruptive to fish and wildlife. It's typically done in the winter to lessen the impacts. If you think about that wetland at the headwater of it, it's pretty much dormant during the winter, so you're not really impacting the plants that get dried out. So that's the approach, and it would be able to be done within one winter's period. This is an example of what the material looks like when it comes out. It's pudding. So it's the pond sediment is suitable for placement in an upland area or a lined landfill. The challenge will be, how do you manage that material to get it dry? It's going to take months, weeks or months. If you think about taking the volume, the 31,000 cubic yards, and you only had an acre to put it in, it would be 19 feet high of mud. So that's a big pile. In an acre, 2 acres would be half that, 10 feet high basically, and a 3 acre would be still 6.5 feet pile of mud. So it's not a small volume of material over, that's a 3 acre area. So that's the challenge. And then the mud volume actually will decrease as that water comes out. And you'll probably get about half that. So it'll end up being, you'll start it at 6.5 feet deep and it'll end up being 3.5 or 4 feet deep when it desiccates down. But that material has very limited value for construction. It has a lot of value for if there was a sand and gravel operation or a quarry in the area or someone that used material, this becomes something that they can mix with sand to make soil or topsoil or something that can be used and has commercial value. If you were to doing like a highway expansion project or something like that, they can use this to blend in and do the large quantities. So we've worked with ponds where they've found a local partner that would truck the material away for free, which is a big benefit. Cost-wise, you can't predict that or guarantee that, obviously, but you can see here, this is a berm that was created that basically they pushed an area and piled up, that's about a 4-foot high pile of sand, and they're just backing up trucks and filling this area and hoping and working the soil to make it de-water, and sun and wind dries it out so that then they can pile it higher and ultimately it'll get filled.
Is it any good for lawns?
Not in its current condition. If you were to take
Blend it with something?
50/50 sand and mix it, it becomes really good soil because there's a lot of organics and a lot of nutrients in it. And it's clean, so it's a, it would have commercial value if it was, you have to do some work. And so some of the projects we'll work with to get it to be commercial, they'll over dredge and dredge down into the sand and bring up the sand and mix it with it right in the basin of the pond, which is one way to make it now something that people want to truck away. The challenge with that approach is you've got to, timing-wise of what you're doing, you have to have someone that wants that quantity at that time. Or you have to make the material and stockpile it until that time comes. And you sort of have to plan your project with a place to put the material and then figure out how to sell it or how to reuse it elsewhere. So the next steps, really, we need to confirm, you know, is 31,000 cubic yards a good project? Is that what you want to do? Is it too much, too little? We need to figure out where those sediment locations for disposal would be. You know, I went through how many acres. 3 acres is still a 6-foot high pile. That's a pretty good sized pile. If you're looking at 3 or 4 acres, I think you've got enough space to do the work. And then identifying the funding sources, and I'll cover that in my report, but as you can see right here, it's going to be about $100,000 to go through the final design and permitting, which is MEPA ENF, which is a Mass Environmental Policy Act environmental notification form. 401 water quality certificate is for the placement of the sediment. A 404 permit from the Army Corps of Engineers is for the wetland impacts, dredging. And then a notice of intent with the wetlands in town, the Wetland Commission in town. All are required to do the work. We estimate about $1.25 million of construction costs. So here you can see this is a project we did in a state park. Those are just siphons. So they use siphons to drain the pond over the dam. No pumps, nothing. They just basically got it running and they kept that water level down by just whether they needed 1 or 2 siphons, they'd open up 1 or 2 and get them running. So it's a very quiet, easy way to drain your pond down. This is the same pond and the dam is down that end, and what this is that orange line was the pond margin, and the dredge contractor left a channel for the stream that was coming in to go down and around and past his work area so that he could continue to dredge out while the water flow continued on to the end with the dam and the siphon. And so he's working here, and so this is that same picture. This is conventional dry dredging, and you can see it's mucky, messy. They have timbers out into the pond so that they don't lose their equipment into the, you know, if you've got 10 feet of mud and you drive your tractor or your excavator out, it's going to be at the bottom of 10 feet of mud. So it's very, this mud is nothing that you could put anything on. It's pudding. And this is a picture of the area that we filled. This is about 6 feet deep at the park, and we filled it with this mud over time. So, and then that right now, if you go back 3 years later, it's vegetated and there's trees coming up, and it's you can walk on it, and it's there. If they ever want to remove it and sell it, they could, or if the park staff wants it for landscaping, they can take it and mix it with whatever they wish. But that was a 2-acre pond into a half-acre spot, basically. And that, whoa, there's so much stuff up here. So that's it. I didn't want to take up too much time. I figured I'd open it up to questions, and if you have any, I'm glad to take them.
Where would the water go, would you suggest, for our pond?
As far as dewatering it?
Yeah.
We'd have to pump it over the dam and find a way to run the siphon further.
Over the bridge.
Yeah,
Right.
or through. There's an outlet. It's
Yeah.
just, there is a dam there. It's got an outlet structure, but I think you can only drop it about 1.5 feet or so, at which point we need to be able to take it down 5 or 6 feet at least. So what they'll do is they'll drain it down naturally by pulling the gate and opening it. They usually will put in a cistern or a sort of a big circle in which they put a pump and drain it down even further. Then they put the siphon in and get that running. Then they yank the pump and everything goes from there. So that's the best approach if you can do that. And we, as the designers, generally permit a lot of options for the contractors so that the contractors can come in with some ideas that are flexible and not dictate what they shall do as far as methods for dewatering, as long as they're comfortable with it, because we find that if we tell them what to do and it's not the cheapest or the best, or for this situation they would like something different, you'll get better bids if they've got a little more leeway and flexibility in what they can do. Especially if they've, one contractor uses a certain approach and is comfortable with it and knows the risks and how long it takes, and they might not be comfortable with something else or a different piece of equipment, and so we kind of leave it more open and tell them, you need to dewater it. You can't dewater it any faster than this speed. You have to bring it up by this time of year, but we don't tell them what size pump to use, for instance.
What about those long tubes? They're available. Does that raise up the cost?
The siphons?
Looks like a sausage or something.
I think it was
Oh yeah, geotubes. Yes.
That's the word.
Yeah, geotubes are fantastic. They're great if you want to hydraulically dredge. They're what we would recommend you use. So a geotube is essentially a large geotextile fabric bag that has a place for the suction dredge, the hydraulic dredge, to hook to, and they just fill up that bag with sediment and water. The water weeps through the sides of the bag, and you have to control that, and the water goes back to the pond. And then we've used them 25 feet in diameter, and then they squeeze, the weight of that squeezes the water out over time. It may take several weeks for that water to squeeze out, and then they slice them open and haul it away with conventional excavation equipment, which is an approach, and that's when we gave you the hydraulic estimate. It's about a $2 million job instead of $1.25 million.
Okay.
So it's doable. It's just, I think for this pond and this size, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Okay.
But if you had a very limited disposal area, like twice the size of this room, you can use geotubes and stack them high, and they all, and then when they're
dewatering,
and you just keep filling them up and stacking them and moving through a number of geotubes to do it, but you can do it that way too. But if you have the ability to drain your pond dry and do the work in the dry, it's almost half the cost per cubic yard. So it's not as fancy, but it gets the job done.
Yeah.
The dry dredge.
Carl, how long is this study good for the feasibility study?
The state likes sediment data that's less than 5 years old. So if we can go between now and 5 years from now, you're probably good to walk into the next stage. The next stage of permitting is where it's called MEPA ENF. It's where you send in a document showing 35% engineering design of what you think you'd like to do to the state, and they tell you what permits you'll trigger, which we just showed you anyway. But they put everyone on notice. They send Fish and Wildlife a copy of the report and the filing, and everyone gets to have their crack at it. But that's triggered because you have more than 10,000 cubic yards of mud or material that you're removing. So any project that's big triggers a MEPA ENF, essentially.
Do you know, since you've specialized in these feasibility studies, any funding sources out there that can help with dredging?
I've done some with Section 319 grants. It was probably 3/4 of an acre, and it was considered a stormwater basin. It was really not by the pond. The town didn't consider it a stormwater basin. It was where they did their recreational skating, but it was able to be dredged out under a 319 grant from Mass DEP, which is for non-point source pollution. So it's you'd have to sort of find a way to say this is the impact of stormwater filling this basin to be able to get that money, and I think that's a big stretch here. Generally speaking, towns either do a warrant article and vote to have it done that way. I've had towns have excess in their budget and they say we have a one-time chance to do it. I had a pond, I waited 20 years from the time I did the study till they got the go-ahead with the funding, and it was very fortunate that they had enough money for the fire truck and the pond, so they did both at the same time. But it's a challenge. I know it's a big number for any town, and it's you know, a question of, do you have Community Preservation Act in town? You don't, because that's how other towns are also funding projects of this scale. This Community Preservation Act money walks right into this. It's a park, it's public, and that's I don't know if it's popular here or not, but it's in the east of Worcester. Almost all the towns have Community Preservation Act, and
I think there's a few around here that have, yeah.
It's just a good source of revenue. I know we did a lot of work in Concord. Their tax base is pretty high, so their Community Preservation Committee just has so much to spend because they've just, the funds just keep building each year, and unless they come up with the projects, they can't spend it fast enough. But it's not everyone's problem.
Yeah. I have nothing else.
Crystal, really?
I think so. I think I answered all my questions.
And you all have a copy of the report?
We got
I
it.
had given it to you earlier.
That's months ago,
Yeah.
right? That's the
Yeah.
same one?
Yeah. It hasn't changed, but if you have any questions or if you have comments on the report, I'd be glad to.
I do have one question. So the state does come and stock the pond? I guess at what point will they stop doing that because of the health of the pond?
I don't know.
Okay, so
I don't know.
something that they determine on their own, it has nothing to do with the study or anything? Okay.
No, the big thing that when they stock a pond with fish, they're looking to make sure that the pond has enough oxygen
Yep.
to support the fish. And so as your pond gets more full and more shallow, the water gets warmer when you get those hot summer days and days with, you know, this summer wasn't the case, but lots of dry periods where you just get lower water levels, hotter water levels, and all that plant growth then starts to decay at night using up that oxygen, and you'll get a fish kill. And if you start seeing regular fish kills in the pond, they'll stop stocking the pond.
It's not cold enough for trout, if that's what you think.
Well, they do stock it in the spring, but they don't stock it after, I think,
Yeah,
April.
and they're all belly
Okay.
up pretty soon afterwards. They're not fished out.
Yeah, it's put and take.
Yeah. Now, if you put bass or something in there, it can probably last a little while.
But they would support a project where you were to dredge it and make it deeper. It will hold more oxygen, the water will be colder, and less plant growth decaying each year. So you'll increase and improve the fish habitat if you deepen the water. Obviously, the fish like water.
So when you say they'll support it, they're...
The Fish and
for it.
Wildlife, they would
Right.
be, yeah, they wouldn't come out against the project.
But no funding from them?
No.
Okay.
Not likely. You can get funding from, there's groups like Bass Unlimited that would fund a project if they were stocking trout. Trout Unlimited might be willing, but you're talking, you know,
Yeah.
$100,000 maybe.
Right.
And on a 1.25 million job. You can't wait for that.
Thank you.
All right?
Well, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
You too, take care.
Take care.
Thank you.
Correspondence, I don't see any correspondence, do you have anything? Do we have any citizen participation?
Before you move on, when I contact these architect firms or engineering firms, just to come in and identify or give a price tag of what it would cost to bring it up to code? Scope
Well,
of services we're looking
I'm wondering if there's gonna be a cost for them to come in and walk the building and give us a report on that. That's what I'm talking about, so starting off
All right,
with
so you're
that
not,
first.
you're not worried about what they project the cost to be, or?
I'm always worried about that. But I want to see if they come in, if they're gonna do I don't use the word study, but they have to do a study and let us know, okay, we're gonna charge you this to come in and tell you what we believe it's gonna cost, or what, I don't think they're gonna tell us what it's gonna cost, or they're gonna tell us, this is what you need to do to bring it up to the standard. So this is what we need to bring it up to the standard. And then the second question would be, well, do we need to go out and find out how much that's gonna cost? Are we getting different information from different people? Or can the same people give us the same information? You need to do A, B, and C, it'll cost this, or you need to do A, B, and C, you gotta find someone else to tell you what it's gonna cost to do that. It'd be helpful just to have someone come in to let us know what is needed to be done, and then we can kind of look at that. I mean, if it's a lengthy list of projects that need to be done, I think we can kind of guess what that would cost to,
Oh, I don't want to guess. The
That-
minute you throw a number out there, it's
But I mean,
concrete.
if you have if they come in and said, yes, there's 3 or 4 things you need to do to bring it up to that standard. Well, that's different than saying, you have 15 things you need to do to bring it up to that standard. So that's just my concern, is that what is gonna be, where it's gonna be as far as what needs to be done, and the cost associated with that as well.
Are we gonna put a cap on the cost of this person coming in to do this?
Well, I think you can bring it back to us, find out, that's what I mean, I wanna know up front.
They're not gonna come out free to walk through the building.
No, but what I'm asking Chris to do is to find out what it's gonna cost to have someone come in and do that. And bring that number back to the board, and the board can decide whether or not we wanna move forward with
Okay, I
paying
see what you're
someone
saying,
that type of money.
Almost sounded like a mini,
Huh?
it almost sounded like a study.
Yeah, I'd like to use the word study.
I hate that word.
Yeah, so, but that's.
It is what it is, though.
Yeah, I know. No, I get it.
You can call it an evaluation of the current conditions, you can call it whatever you want, but it's still a
Yeah.
study.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, well, moving right along. Let's see, we have departmental reports.
I'll make a motion to approve departmental reports from December 4th and December 11th.
For a second,
Yeah, I'll second that.
any further discussion?
I did want to just, we got the highway department one, which I know we get kind of quarterly, but I do want to thank them for all their work that they did on the Bachelor Street. I know they had to pick up the trash for, in the report it said almost 11 weeks, and I didn't realize that it was that long, so they did have to do some extra work on their end. So I do want to thank them for that and for helping out at the Veterans Memorial stump removal as well. So they did a wide variety of projects that the town needed, so just want to recognize them for their hard work.
It's true. I'm sure they appreciate it.
Yeah, no, they're doing a great job. Chris, did we lose power at all anywhere around here today?
Not that I know of,
Some streets did.
Yeah. I saw
but
it.
not because of down trees, I don't think, was it?
No.
I don't know the reason
Taylor
yet.
Street was because of just the winds. We lost it for 3 hours today.
But, you know,
Yeah.
so the tree work project has been,
Has been, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
They're doing a great job on that.
Right,
You know,
Yeah.
and I would agree, Rick, I think you've seen the big difference over the years, just with the, taking down the trees that are problem trees, if you will.
Yeah.
And associated with power lines and stuff like that, I think, you kind of
They've
notice
been
the
doing a
difference.
fantastic
Yeah.
job, yeah.
Even, I mean, the past couple weeks, we've had some storms with some high winds, and I think we're very minimal for what, you know, outages that we have in town, so. All right, so with that said, all in favor of accepting departmental reports?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay. Maintenance warrants.
Right, so I will make a motion to approve warrant number 81 for fiscal year 2023, dated June 30th, 2023, in the amount of $82,136.64.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I just had a question because I think this is the first time I'm seeing where we are doing changes. So it was just corrections that were made from payments, is what it looked like, from expenditures from different departments
Yep.
for fiscal year 2023. So we're just adjusting the warrant that we signed before. Okay. So that was it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Next one is a motion to approve warrant number 081S dated June 30th, 2023, for $0.
again, that's the school reclassifying expenditures
Okay.
over the course of FY '23.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Next one is a motion to approve the payroll warrant number 35 for fiscal year 2024 in the amount of, dated 12/5/2023. And this is in the amount of $575,319.42.
Second? Any further discussion?
I will abstain from the selectmen's salaries and the teacher salaries.
All right. Anything else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. And obviously Rick and I will vote as a necessity for the selectmen salaries as well.
All right, next one is a motion to approve maintenance warrant number 36. This is warrant number, I just said warrant number 36, dated 12/8/2023, in the amount of $139,198.97.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? minutes approved?
I was gonna say you sent them, right? But they're not in here, so we'll just wait for next time? Okay.
So next time it is.
Yeah.
All right. We have a sewer abatement.
Actually, got two of them.
Okay.
This is for Tanya Get You Fit. Based upon her readings, she should actually be less than 1 EDU. However, we can't charge less than 1 EDU per our regulations, and I think she's being charged 2.25. So we're abating from 2.25 down to 1 EDU.
Okay.
And that's for actually the fiscal year 2023, both commitment 1 and commitment 2.
Okay. Yeah, and the meter readings were in there, so she's using less than what she
Yep.
was being charged for, so.
Yeah.
So I will make a motion to approve the sewer abatement certificate number 2170, for the sewer bill, sorry, and then the commitment number 23-1 for Tanya Gets You Fit Realty LLC at 5456 West State Street in Granby. Do you want the amount, Chris?
No.
Okay.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
And as I said, there's one for commitment 1 and one for commitment number 2, first half and second half of the fiscal year.
Chris, now that she, I know you said we can't charge less than 1. Can we drop her down from 2.5 to 1 for fiscal year
I gotta
2024?
notify the South Hadley.
Okay. This is all that. Are we supposed to have another folder here for the liquor license common?
There were none. There were
Okay.
none for, we put that in because I wasn't sure if we were gonna have any more.
Okay,
There are, the next 3 items, we had none that we have to be
all
addressed
right.
by.
I got worried when I didn't have the folder here.
Yeah, no, no.
Well, that's a quick 3 items you just went through.
Yep,
So no liquor licenses, no common vic licenses, and no entertainment licenses?
correct.
And that's all the paperwork for that abatement.
Oh. And on to old business.
Okay, on the Route 202 Mass DOT project, there was a conference call on December 6th. They are going to be doing the Five Corners project and the School Street project together. They will be starting moving of utility poles starting in January of 2024. They are planning to start construction as of March of 2024. Okay? What they are still planning on doing for the area in Five Corners is they are still going to continue bringing down Amherst Street, straightening it out, and putting 2 lanes at the end of Amherst Street, coming out in the 202, one for a right-hand turn, one for left-hand turn, which I don't think is really going to address the bottleneck that you get there early in the morning or late at night.
And I wish we could reach back out to the study, and I just know because I obviously travel on Amherst Street a lot, and I mean, in the afternoon, between like 3:30 and 5:30, Amherst Street gets backed up to almost up the hill. I mean,
It goes up to where you go into the project.
yeah, you have a good 30 cars
Yeah.
backed up. And I would say, no one's taking a left-hand turn down there. Because most people, if they're going on to 202 and they're coming down Amber Street, they're taking West Street. And they're going down West Street to make the turn on to 202. They're not coming down to the bottom of Amber Street. So a majority of that are right-hand turns.
They are a majority of right-hand, but then you get the people who want to go across to
Straight
Cumberland
across,
Farms.
yeah, the Cumbies.
And I'm saying, but that really bottles it at that point.
One left-hand turn here will pop.
Right, so
Make that happen.
but with that said, if you pushing the lane, straightening it out, it's gonna be further down 202 towards the intersection, so people can't go across anymore, so everybody's gonna have to be taking a right. I hate to see people take a left and a quick right.
Well, they really should shut down one of those entryways into Cumberland Farms, because they have two entries.
Yeah.
See, when I want to go into Cumberland Farms, I'll take the right-hand turn and then take that one before Pleasant Street to get up into the lot, but right by the pumps.
Oh,
There's one right there you can take.
Yeah.
But most people don't want to do that. They just want to shoot straight across. And they block everybody.
I take the right and take the left into, because it's
Right.
dangerous going,
Well,
because it's not straight across.
wasn't there some talk in that meeting about them modifying that?
But I haven't seen,
Whether
the
if
plan-
it's a-
we don't have a current set of plans.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm interested in seeing. 'Cause
So
if
they
it's
were
a
gonna
right-hand
s-
turn only coming out of Cumberland Farms, then it's not an issue.
Even out of Dunkin' Donuts, it shouldn't be allowed to go a left-hand turn. People are cutting
Yeah.
out of there across 202, and they're blocking the lanes coming down too,
Yeah,
on the
you just
green
ask
light.
for trouble if you cut across, take a left-hand turn.
Because you have the option to go out on the other side, and they go to the lights and take a left if you
Yeah,
need to take a
that's-
left.
That's what I do
That's the way it should
nowadays.
be.
Yeah, it's just too much traffic.
I don't think it's gonna
You have to
change
risk it.
much, the traffic issue, with what they're doing there.
I think, as someone who's lived there for the past 20-plus years, I think it's just gonna increase the traffic issue and problems. Because now you're actually making, is that the Dunkin' Donut parking lot's gonna be smaller.
And then they're also gonna be putting in a crosswalk there. So you're gonna have pedestrian traffic possibly interfering with
I
it.
wish they'd come back and talk to us more about it again. It just doesn't, we're going back to something that was there before, that the study showed it didn't work before.
You mean go straight, they're not straightening it out to go through the parking lot. They're just taking them.
They're almost taking it back to the original five corners.
But it's not going that far over. It's only gonna go over 10 feet probably into that parking lot. You lose the ones right there.
You're gonna lose the kiosk.
I don't think it'll go that far.
You may have to.
I don't, not from what I heard in that meeting.
Well, if it's gonna be 2 lanes, you gotta have the 2
Yeah, it
lanes.
sounds
so-
like it's a right-hand turn only lane, you're gonna have the other one that still goes straight. for the
But that
people who
still
take a
isn't gonna
left-hand.
alleviate the backup of traffic going up.
Well,
to the
that's why I
top
was
of the
asking
hill.
you earlier, because to alleviate the traffic, they would have to pull more land into that parking lot.
You know,
It's not, but I'm saying, it's not gonna alleviate. If anything, you're gonna put more traffic backed up on Amber Street because, again, I wish they'd come and talk to us more about it again. And like I said, to do a study, see how many people, it's very, very few people. And this came up when they were here before talking about it, the amount of people that take the left-hand turn off of Amber Street on the 202.
It's not a lot, no.
It's not a lot.
I agree with you.
And then-
well, let me see if I can find the name of the person who was in charge of that and see if they can come in and talk to the board again.
Because now you're shortening up the distance between the lights and Amber Street. You're shortening up that distance, and now between that distance, you're gonna have the entrance to Dunkin' Donuts there, or the entrance to the complex, not just Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
You're gonna straighten up, so you talk about taking another 10 feet at least.
Yeah.
And then, so your entrance at Dunkin' Donuts is right there.
I thought for some reason they were doing a rotary. They're just doing that at School Street? They're not gonna do it?
They're
Okay.
not, I don't think it was
It's an
big
environment.
enough, I don't think it was big enough at Five Corners to
Right.
do
Too
it.
much wetlands, what I heard.
Yeah.
At Five Corners it was
Yeah.
too much because
Yeah.
of the tall grass over to the left?
And
Or-
the amount of land they owned wasn't big enough for them to put a
Okay.
proper size. You know, try and put traffic, tractor trailers around that.
Yeah,
And then I'm
that's
still,
true.
where are we with the whole piece of land? Who owns that,
Wetlands.
The Hallen
Which land?
request.
the parking lot from
That hasn't been determined either, and that's what we're waiting for Alan to get back to us on, and their attorneys aren't doing anything. So. Yes.
It'd be nice to have a discussion, at least again on that, and you can get some input from us as well. You know.
Okay. Let me
It's
see,
something that's affecting our town.
let me see if I can find the engineer in charge and see if maybe they can come to a board meeting.
Yeah.
And you would think the state would have looked up too, because if they're gonna take piece of a property, they have to know whether or not it's
Well, they're the
necessary.
ones who are identifying it as town
Yeah,
property.
they're one said this town.
Oh, okay. And Hallen's saying
Alan is saying the
it's
town,
abandoned?
on a handshake, gave it to him to use it, basically. They can't find any documents that the town actually voted to move that land over to him.
And how far does it go over?
Well, straighten it out.
I think it goes over almost to the kiosk.
Yeah, it does, I think. It
If I
goes right
remember
through
right.
it if you go over. If you straighten out Amber Street, and I was here when it was Five Corners.
Well, I mean, but if it goes, if it can go over to where the kiosk is,
Yeah, the kiosk.
we haven't
gotta go.
charged anybody to rent for where the kiosk goes.
No,
So
That's why they brought it to our attention.
they're paying someone to rent on it, so. for
but
that
the
property-
problem becomes, and because I've talked to town council about it, is for the amount of time that it's been being used by them, it may be like, almost like a forfeiture on the side, part of the town to Hallen.
I mean, that's a great little complex there. I'd hate to see all those parking spaces get chewed up on that. I mean, that's what we were talking
Well,
about
my
before.
fear is that too, it's not fear, but a lot of times you have the dump trucks and stuff like that, they park along that side where the,
Yeah, coffee.
Yep.
The lanes.
ATM is and all that.
Right.
That
Oh,
corner,
yeah, yeah.
that's all gonna be gone.
Yeah.
And I've been noticing lately when I come in, all those parking lots are filled first thing in the morning,
Well, they are,
Yeah.
they definitely are in the morning.
you know, and it's just,
I mean, you're reducing to the parking spaces for the businesses that are there.
Yeah.
And here's my other question, where that was designed for the businesses that are there, I think there's more now than there were actually before. Does it have the adequate parking spaces what it's supposed to have?
I don't think it does, because I think originally
Take away
that was
those-
just what, the Hallen Oil Company, and they had, what, a garage there, I think it was.
Oh,
And that
when it
was
first
it.
started, yeah, you're right, I remember that.
You know, and now it's got, what, four viable businesses in it. Busy businesses.
Right, well,
Put it that way.
now the parking spaces will definitely impact, so their business, so, and I hope that, we can have a discussion with the DOT on that and maybe invite the business owners there to come in and listen to what's being said.
Yeah, it was definitely, I think we gotta look at the plans.
Yeah. I remember the plans, I remember talking about it, I remember discussing it, and,
And then went
Talk with Chief
into a
Richard.
deep dark hole,
yeah,
you know, so.
so. All right,
Forge Pond, I'm waiting for the documents from Mr. Leonard so we can proceed with the project.
all right.
Repairing Dufresne Playground, I believe all repairs are complete.
Did anybody go out there? Inspect
John
that?
LaRue went out on the,
Yeah, we had Mr. LaRue, according to Jeremy's reports.
Okay.
He had Mr. LaRue go out and inspect the work, and he found a couple items that needed to be addressed, and they were addressed, as far as I know.
I did have a question on that, Chris. I know the two, in Jeremy's last report, they haven't been addressed yet, but the company's working towards addressing them. But didn't we get in the original bid the ADA mats to go to the transfer decks? That was in both original bids. So are they not doing the ADA mats now? And if
Don't
they're
know.
not, are we gonna save
Don't know. I
Okay.
don't know the answer to that one.
Okay.
I'll have to ask Jeremy that, because,
Yeah, in the original bids, there was ADA mats going to both transfer decks for the toddlers and for the bigger play structure. So coming off the gravel road, there were supposed to be 2 ADA mats so that if a child was in a wheelchair, they could transfer over to the transfer decks.
don't know.
Okay.
Don't know that answer. Five Corner Hallen, no, I don't have anything, nothing further on that. Water, MWRA, we haven't proceeded on anything on that. Senior work off program, I'm still, even though I did talk with Finance Committee, I'm still trying to put together the parameters of the program. Council on Aging. This one's creating a problem for me now. We're not getting any applicants. Okay? I have received an application for employment. Does not have a degree in gerontology. Does have a history of starting groups and being active with various groups of people, starting programs, things of that nature. I also had another person contact me. They've had nursing home experience. They've had other types of experiences that could apply for dealing with the elderly, but yet they don't have the necessary educational requirements. Is this board willing to entertain bringing in someone who may not have the educational requirements if they have other skills that would be applicable to this area?
I'm willing to, have the opportunity to have, someone sit down in front of us and tell us what they're capable of doing and talk to them about that. I mean, we definitely, I don't know, is there a requirement that they have to have a certain level of education for the position?
In our job description, or...
But besides our job description, is there any requirement?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. To be honest with you, I think that last woman who dealt with, had a lot of experience with dementia. She brought a lot to the table. It may not have been in a council on aging setting, but she brought it from other areas that could have been applied to this setting. Okay? And I think that's the problem, is everybody feels they have to come from a council on aging. I don't agree with that. I think that as long as they have a good personality, they get along well with that age group, that they're open, outgoing, friendly. Those are what we're looking for right now. As you well know, they can learn how to put together grants. They can learn the needs of having to go, what's required by the state oversight agencies or the local agencies. You create your core group of people. You can rely on other people. You've got the Western Mass Council on Aging that you can go for leadership or advice of what to do. You've got Western Mass Elder Care who's there to guide you. You've got the Mass Council on Aging. We have all these associations that these people can get guidance from. What we're looking for is someone to come in and start attracting more people to this place, to get people wanting to come here, to getting people to know that it's open, it's a friendly place, it's a place to come. Have a cup of coffee in the morning and read the newspaper here, okay? Or come and have a muffin and a coffee and just try and socialize. Things of that nature. Or to be able to come in here and maybe get some comfy sofa chairs and come and read a book. Just a place to get out of their house and come here to a public setting to maybe talk to people, socialize.
Chris, and to that, I think, if someone has the experience, I think the experience goes a long way versus someone as far as the education piece. And I'll give you an example. If he has someone who just came out of college and has, really no experience versus someone that's, has been working with seniors for 15 years and has done a variety of different aspects with that and programming, things like that. Those are the kind of things to look at. And that's why I said I'm not totally, set on someone having a certain degree to be there. We know we need a director.
Yes.
Or we need someone to run the counseling and agent for our seniors. And, we can't just keep, again, kicking the can down the road hoping that something's going to happen. Again, I think it comes down to us where if we have certain people that are applying and they don't meet the requirements, however, I think maybe we sit down and meet with people and see. And we may find out, bring some of the seniors into it too and see, hey, they might be the fit. And why not have that opportunity to take that chance? Because we know right now we're on borrowed time with our current acting director.
Yes, we are. And as you mentioned before too, there's a lot of communities out there that the council on aging directors are are going for more money, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, they are.
They're going, they're leaving their long-term positions and because they're gonna get $20,000 more by moving three communities over.
I mean, if we get, if we find someone that I think meets the criteria that we're looking for, as far as someone that's gonna care for our seniors in town, someone that's gonna make a difference, someone that's gonna be involved, someone that's gonna be active, I think those are things that we're looking for. And that's what I don't see an issue. I don't have a problem with talking to people, because sometimes talking to people, we might find out, they're the hidden gem that we just passed up. So why not, we're not losing anything by talking to someone
Okay.
about it.
All right, but like I said, it's just, I just feel bad when you send it to them and they see our requirements and then it scares them away. They don't want to go forward with it because, oh, I don't have this degree or I don't have that type of experience. But there's all types of experiences that can be applied to here, as far as I'm concerned. So I just want to put that out in front of the board.
Well, unless anybody feels any different than what I just said, I think, I don't think we're...
No, I agree. As long as we give them the support and the guidance to the different organizations that can help them with the grant writing and financial responsibility of the COA, I think just them having the experience like you're saying, and being good with the elderly and being patient, kind,
Yes.
welcoming, I think those are the biggest attributes, I think.
Yep, no, I agree, so. All right, well, thank you for that.
Do you want us to go back and look at what you put in there, or what we put in there, I should say, for the requirements, and kind of say, would be nice to have this, but not required, maybe? So that way we get more applicants?
Simple language.
I don't know, let me think about that a little bit. Okay.
It might, like you said, open the door to new applicants that might not have went for it, but still have the experience.
I mean, if you're gonna take the education piece, you could put,
Suggested but not required.
Right, it's not required but recommended, strongly recommended but not required.
Yeah, because you're seeing a lot of ads out there now for people who don't have a degree, but hey, you've done this for 20 years of your life. That's really almost an associate's or a bachelor's degree if you really went through all the courses. You learned through the School of Hard Knocks. You didn't go through a educational facility to do it.
Some of these schools give credits for
Right.
on-the-job experience.
So maybe we need to look at it that way too ourselves, is to, maybe you don't have that piece of paper that says you passed all these courses, but you've been doing it so long, inherently, instinctively,
And I agree with that. I think it's important that we for our seniors, we don't just go, we need to look at different options and availability to make something happen. Absolutely.
Okay. Then the final item, West Street Building. All right, I have contacted a company to be able to bring in a couple oil tanks to be able to use it as a temporary fuel source for heating the building. I have been in touch with a company about the removal of the in-ground oil tank. I do have a estimate on that. Haven't talked to the building committee yet, but I know they're talking on meeting in a couple weeks. It was interesting, I did have a resident contact me regarding that oil tank, and I did some research after we talked. That tank is exempt from all the underground storage tank regulations. It is a consumptive tank. Basically, it's in the ground just for us to be able to heat the building. So we don't have to follow the underground storage tank regulations for it.
Did you get that in writing?
Actually, you read the EPA regulations and you read the DEP regulations, and there are exemptions in the CMR and the FMR that
Very good.
list consumptive tanks. Okay? So, but
We still have
Again,
to prove
but-
there's no leakage, so.
Again, no, we don't have to do anything.
No?
We don't have to do anything. But with the discussion that occurred as a result, I believe that even though we don't have to, we need to move forward with the removal of that tank.
Hey, you just look for trouble down the road, I think. If that gets into the water table,
But I'm saying,
If it leaks.
even though we're exempt,
yep.
I think it is prudent for us to continue forward with the removal of said tank.
I wouldn't want to leave it there.
Well, here's my thing, if we're exempt from it, and then the tank is completely emptied out, and we have tests done around there that says there's been no leakage, and the tank is empty, which means there'll be no leakage if the tank is completely empty down the road, why not just leave it there and save the money?
Because when you're going to do the borings, you may rupture the tank if they go too close to it. Because we don't have an exact, it's from this part of the property to this part of the property and this wide. We have, here's where the fill hole for the tank is. Now you try and figure out which way it's going, and how big it is, and how deep it is.
If it's a 10,000 gallon tank, yeah.
Right, okay? We don't know all that stuff because that's from back late 40s, early
I'm
50s,
sure, yeah, that's,
okay? So, to play it safe, or prudent, I'm being prudent. Yeah, we can kick the can down the road. You'll be off the board, all of you at some point.
but that's not kicking the can down the road.
Yes, it is kicking the can down the road because we should address it now as part of the project. Get it out of the ground, have it disappear.
I get that part, but what I'm saying is that if there's no leakage and the tank's empty at that point,
The tank is never gonna be completely empty. And at some point, it is gonna rupture. And at some point, there will be probably some residue in the tank that will come out.
Under the assumption there's no leakage now.
Yes. And actually, the prices
I'm fine,
And actually, the price I got-
I'm just
and
looking at
actually,
options for us.
the price I got was an excellent price for removal.
Well, what was the price? Because they're gonna have 20,000 people asking, well, what was the cost?
Base cost right now is $15,000.
Is that without the testing, just removing the?
No, that's even testing 4 tests.
That's awesome.
That's the price I got.
Wow.
And it's gonna cost me about $12,000 to install the 2 330-gallon tanks inside the building as temporary heating source.
And then we are upgrading to propane or natural gas. Is that what the building plan was?
We're looking at mini splits and using
Yeah.
propane.
Okay.
We don't
And the
have,
reason we're going the propane route is the state edict to decarbonize our buildings.
we don't have an option of natural gas in Granby.
Well, we do, it just doesn't go down in front of our building. I think it goes up 202, but I don't think it goes down.
There's a
West Street.
gas pipeline there.
I think it goes up part of 202. I don't know how far it goes.
First I heard of that. So that kind of makes sense that the pizza palace and the other ones use gas in their ovens, so that makes sense.
I was just thinking that as you were.
So the company, Chris, would remove the tank and do the testing? Okay,
And bring the hole up to grade.
okay.
Wow, that's great. That's good news.
But again, I hate throwing numbers out because everything is cut in concrete.
Yeah, it's in the.
No, but
Yeah, there's
it's
nothing in-
good, and I
Right,
mean,
yeah.
especially, some of the numbers that people were throwing out previously. I think it's good that, just to kind of hear that, where, you know, if there's any type of leakage, then we'll deal with those issues if they arise. But however, you know, best case scenario, will probably be another $20,000 to remove the tank.
Potentially, yes.
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially, yes.
At the town meeting there was, everybody just spouted their opinions without having any expertise in the field, and everybody can do that, but doesn't mean it's fact.
Well, it is scary when you get to the millions of dollars, so they just thought, you know,
No, they were saying it was $1 million.
Yeah, they were thinking of worst
It
case
could be.
scenarios.
If there's massive leakage there,
Yeah.
we're talking probably close to $70 to $80 a ton.
Yeah.
To
But we don't-
remove the,
I mean,
to
just
So you
remove
got
the
the price on
contaminated
that,
soil.
okay.
And I go back to what you said at the town meeting, just based on,
We don't know yet.
no, but based on where the levels are and stuff like that, the oil tank, when it was the same, almost the same level it was back in the springtime. You know, so that, you know, so it's just a good sign, as they said, so it doesn't mean, you know, it's not possible, but that's a good sign. It means if there's a leak, if possible, it's not a major leak, because you're not losing a lot of oil. or any oil.
And then, you know, when we talked to the retired engineer, he said he believes that soil may have clay in it. And if it has clay in it, it won't spread.
Yeah.
The clay will contain it into the one area. So, fingers crossed. You know, we're looking at maybe January to get all this work done.
Okay.
So,
Then we can go to the next phase.
fingers crossed.
And now we,
This is the major obstacle that everybody was worried about.
Okay?
We'll get past this and
Yeah.
continue to move forward.
But we did say that, you know, all the updates will come to the board meeting, and so I will hold to that statement that was made at the hearing or the public information session. You want to know what's going on, watch the selectmen's meetings.
and they don't have to go out as RFPs because they're under 25,000, right?
Yes.
But we still have to do the best practices where we get the lowest bidder and stuff.
I don't think you're gonna get much lower than that.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I have for the board is, next meeting would normally be January 2nd.
Yep.
Do you want to still hold it January 2nd, the day after New Year's, or do you want to?
I thought we were talking about the 4th.
The 4th, you said?
I thought somebody said the 4th. I don't have
I don't
anything
think
in
anyone
my
said-
calendar, though.
You might have said
A
before.
Wednesday?
Yeah,
Oh, that's right, you're retired, you don't care.
yeah,
Well, the Wednesday is the 3rd. Thursday is the 4th.
Thursday is the 4th.
Yeah.
I don't have anything written down. Do you want to go to this?
Why don't we just go, we want to go to the following Monday? Give everybody the holiday and,
We can, it's up to the board how you want to do it.
how's the board okay with
Yeah.
that? Go to the following Monday?
So to the 8th.
The 8th?
And then the week after that is Martin Luther King's.
Yeah, so why don't we,
Birthday.
so why don't we just do the 8th and 22nd?
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get the calendar down.
And I say that just because there's 5 Mondays in January, so we still got our 2 meetings in,
Okay,
and we'll just make it known.
And the 22nd, you said?
Yeah, so we'll do the January 8th and January 22nd.
okay.
Sound good?
8th and 22nd, 5:30, as always.
As always?
Unless the board wants to change it.
No. 5:30 always works.
7 o'clock is good.
Did you say 7 o'clock?
Yeah.
It used to be 7 o'clock at night.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
It used to be
9:30,
7 at
10
night.
o'clock at night.
Oh,
We weren't getting out to 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
That's a long night, especially when you get up early.
I remember.
We were
those days.
dragging the next day, believe me.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sure you were. All right, in the calendar.
One of the good things that came out of COVID, changed the meeting times. Earlier. All right, well, that's it, right? Chris had executive session, that's from earlier.
Yes, we do have an executive session.
Okay.
All right. So with that said, there's nothing else on our agenda. Does
So
anybody want to bring anything up for our next meeting?
Well, I was gonna say, I did ask last time for us to look at the town administrator evaluation forms.
Oh.
I sent a couple examples to Kathy, I don't know if she was able
forwarded
to
it,
forward
yep.
them over. So-
When did you send them out, Cal?
I sent them out last Thursday or
No, when
Friday.
did she send them out?
Oh, today,
I didn't see
okay.
it then.
So do we want to table it for the 8th meeting?
We'll table it the 8th, yep.
Okay. And then I did want to ask about the green communities. So I know they filed for our annual one for this past year. Chris, do you know if we have to go back to the previous year in order to be in good standing? I
That I
haven't
don't
heard
know.
back from them yet on that.
I don't know about that one.
Okay. So with that said, there is a lot of savings that we could possibly get as long as we are still a green community for our West Street building. So I know the last energy audits were, or energy efficiencies where they went through the town buildings was done in 2017. I know we don't have a Green Communities Committee as of now because I know Jay Joyce spearheaded that committee when he was on the board. But,
Well, we spearheaded it before he became on the board, so.
Okay.
It was part of that.
so, with that said, I did have a chance to talk to Mr. Joyce about the green communities, and he would like to be on a green community committee. But the committee has to be more than one person, right? Can't just be one
Yeah.
person on a committee.
No.
So he would like to help Granby in saving money for the West Street building as well as our town buildings that we currently have with spearheading the energy efficiency audits and making sure that we're 20% or lower in our savings.
Yep. Who
Because
you
that's what
talking
they're
about now?
looking for green communities.
Oh, no, you had a volunteer, you said?
Yeah, Jay Joyce
Okay.
volunteered to spearhead the green communities for us and to look into savings for the West Street building. Because a lot of the stuff that we're looking to do, we could possibly save money for with grants because it's about the efficiency of the West Street building with the renovations. So I know one of the things that we have to do is the windows. That was one of the things that was on there, so I would like to make a motion to appoint him to a Green Communities Committee to spearhead that for us in the town.
Well, we need to make a committee first,
Okay.
and then we can appoint him to it.
Yeah, because the committee, I think, dropped off when we didn't have anyone on it.
Well, why don't we table that to our next
Okay.
meeting, and I say that so that we can get anybody else that's interested in it, and then we can do it all at once.
Okay.
We can, you know, it's great, and I appreciate Jay stepping up in that piece. But if we don't, we need to find some other people to be part of the committee with them. I want them to be there and waiting for somebody, so we can, you know, reach out and see if some other people are interested in it.
Have him reach out, or?
No, it's a
Okay.
select board. I think anybody's interested, they can reach out to the town administrator
Yeah.
Okay.
in regards to that.
Chris, can you give me a copy of your job description? Thank you.
All right, so that was it. So I will make a motion to end the regular meeting and then to go into,
You're not adjourning this meeting.
Yeah, you do that one.
We adjourn after you get done with executive
Okay.
session.
So,
make a motion to
Enter into executive.
enter into executive session. Thank you.
Second.
so before I ask for a roll call vote, we're entering into executive session
Oh, that's right.
under Mass General Law 30-A-21-A-2.
Yep.
Which is to conduct negotiations with non-union personnel.
Yes. All right. And we'll come out of executive session and we'll adjourn from regular session at that time as well. So roll call vote. Sexton, aye.
Poll your eye.
Dufresne, aye.
Thank you, folks. Have a good night.